There we go. Okay, give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Okay. I think we are ready to get started. Call this meeting to order, 6:03, the October 20th Mapleton School Board meeting. It's called to order. Opening ceremony. Our mission is to provide a safe learning environment where students are encouraged and empowered to reach their educational and personal potential. We strive to base all our decisions on what is best for students. Jaren put the agenda up on the screen. I have a couple of edits just for, so it sounds like the student representative, that 4.11 is not going to be here this evening. And then item 7, action items, there actually aren't any action items this month, so that can be removed as well. And then I wanted to note that we do have an executive session towards the end of our meeting, and I would actually add there's actually 2 items to discuss in that executive session. So I would add ORS 1926602I to discuss, and I just had it up to discuss, what is the language? To review and evaluate employment-related performance of the chief executive officer. So I just want to touch base on that. Any other edits or additions or deletions?
Not for me.
Hearing nothing else,
I don't have anything.
is there a motion to approve the agenda as edited?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of accepting the edited agenda? Mizu,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
and Marilyn says yes as well. The edited agenda has been accepted. Item 3, public comments on agenda items. Jaren, I understand there was nobody submitted a public comment.
Correct.
Then we can move on to district reports, the middle school, high school report.
So tomorrow night, our volleyball team travels to LC for the first round of playoffs. We end up 6th, so we traveled to 5th. If we win tomorrow night, then we have a tournament on Saturday at Harrisburg, and that's where Mountain West League determines the top 3 teams that will proceed to first round of state.
Hey, Brenda,
Yes.
I thought that we had a different relationship with LC.
So yes. So there have been many concerns regarding safety mandates in various schools, and LC is one that we've had some challenges with. And I will tell you that in order to not sacrifice our girls this season, because if we just said we weren't playing tomorrow evening, we would have their OSAA, nobody's stepping in to say that it would be a forfeit for them. We are working with the league's ADs for some better understanding of league agreements around mandates for basketball. But until then, and we've invited OSAA to attend tomorrow night, and they've said no, call OSHA, which is one option. But instead, I will be traveling up there with Carrie and Fred, who is the AD from McKinsey, who's also the AD in charge of volleyball, will be up there as well. And we will play in a safe environment, or we will not play. And I want to be really careful. I don't want kids to hear this, because when our kids, so you've got players on the team, make sure they're not hearing this. I don't want them to be distracted. Like, I don't want them to think, I don't want them to be looking for masks. I just want them to do their job. They need to go play. And I will tell you that we will not play in an unsafe environment as long as I am principal. And if I feel it's unsafe, I am going to, we're going to load the bus. So we will be safe or we won't.
And why not contact OSHA?
I just, to be honest, I think I put in honestly close to 80 hours last week, and I'm already, I just haven't had time, and I don't know, and I really don't know that it'll make a difference. They've had OSHA up there. They laugh about it later. It's just different. So if you have some individual conversations you'd like to have later, great. I think at this point, we're just going to move forward, and that's the plan. Yeah.
Thanks.
And I'm not saying we're not going to, we haven't, because it just seems like I honestly don't think it should have to come to that. I think we've got these governing agencies saying this is how we're going to keep kids safe, and there's really no backbone to it. One thing OSA is saying is that now that we're heading into basketball, what they're hoping to have is a complaint procedure, so that if safety mandates aren't being enforced, then there's at least a procedure. I will tell you that I don't know that would make a difference in all schools. I am so proud of our students. We have a couple out of all of our middle school, high school, we have like 2 or 3, 4 that we have to keep reminding to put it up their nose, but it's still here, and they're not defiantly not wearing it. Our kids are wearing it. They're figuring it out. We're giving mask breaks. I'm feeling our programs getting closer to feeling like a normal building in just a few weeks. So that's good.
How's our, when we have at home games, how's the behavior?
Amazing. Our home crowd. So we did have an incident with one of the, it was actually a grandma of another team. And that was part of the concern around where we're traveling tomorrow. And, we had somebody cough in our AD's face, intentionally pulling down the mask. So we've been dealing with it. And part of the challenge, I know there's questions of why are we so committed to traveling? If everybody were on the same page, even if people didn't agree with the rules, they would at least understand them. But it's really frustrating as an adult that you go to one building and these are the rules, and you go to another building and they're a lot different. And so then you blame the building instead of recognizing that maybe one building was being too lax. OSA guidance has been pretty, like, it changes a lot, but masks are being worn right now by everybody except for the kids on the field or on the court. That's the hard line rule, and that's what we're going with. So with that being said, there are still COVID cases. We had a person show up to Thursday's board volleyball match after testing positive on Wednesday. I am baffled by that. We are handling that. I am doing all the contact tracing. We unfortunately, because of that move, we had some kids that couldn't be at school for 2 to 3 weeks. Our preschool had 8 out of 12 kids were gone yesterday, and some probable case. So we just, out of an abundance of care, or caution rather, we sent them home and until November 1st. So that's what's happening there. Our elementary is traveling to the pumpkin patch tomorrow. That's an annual tradition that's going to kind of feel like normal. So that's going to be exciting. Our middle school volleyball kind of went out of order, but they played tonight and they won, and they're doing really well. And again, it's just nice to see the kids getting to interact and have some healthy middle school time. Our numbers are small enough in our district, and it's been this way for a while. And it just seems like the right moment that Opal and Ramil are our presidents. Opal's our high school president for student council, and Ramil is our middle school. And we are blending the middle school and high school student council for leadership. I think there's so many advantages. The high schoolers will be able to mentor, if you will, and demonstrate. And and the middle school energy that comes from only middle school. I think there's going to be a lot of good that's going to come out of that. And we have our first Spirit Week next week, dress up days, week of Halloween, so that should be fun. Those are the main things happening. We had to change our schedule. Because we did lose a staff member because of the vaccine mandate. And so our high school, middle school, we normally have about 9.5 teachers. We're doing it with 5.5. I am quite frankly, if you watch the news, you know, this is not a Mapleton issue. This is a state and national issue. My biggest concern is burnout. Without having a large substitute pool, you know, we don't have a lot of availability to take time off. But our teachers are troopers. They're working really hard. They care. I'm really proud of the schedule we have. It's not ideal. Not a lot of electives, not a lot of extra things. But what we do have is great core instruction with the ability to make up for lost credits, like if kids didn't participate because of whatever reason for the last couple of years. So that's going well. And yeah, we have 2 super seniors that are 5th year seniors that are showing up every day, and then a third that shows up some. So I'm not, you know, sure. So I'm excited about that. The fact that 2 kids came back for a 5th year is a huge thing. That's not easy to do, but they're doing it. And I'm really proud of them.
With the new schedule, Brenda, I mean, the schedule's kind of being dictated by the teachers not having enough teachers to teach everything. So the teachers, I am guessing, are, you know, are teaching something every period, but are there breaks in the student day then? Because this, or how does that work? Because there aren't no electives to take. So then are there breaks in their day, or they're?
Oh, we do have some electives. We have, and every kid is put into, for middle school, we're calling it the cruise. For freshmen on through juniors, we're calling it success. And then for seniors, we're doing our senior SEM. So we're doing a period a day of just how to take notes, how to be a student again. A lot of them haven't been successful in a classroom for quite a while. So how to take notes, a lot of AVID things, which is best research put together in a package. We still do have PE. We have Frisbee, which is really popular. Lou, of course, Ultimate Frisbee. We have some online classes which have some offerings that are different. We have books on film, and then film studies. So those are both elective and fun. So yeah, and we're going to hire an elective teacher. The irony is we had 4 language arts teachers last spring, and we were thinking if anybody left, we might not need another language arts person. All 4 have left. So now we have no language arts certified on staff. It went from being heavy language arts to not, and that's where I think we just need to recognize, and we have for years, when we go to open up for a position, we will look at anybody. We're looking for the right fit more than what their credentials are, because we can figure out how to get them emergency until we can get them if we have to. So.
Any questions for Brenda?
I'm gonna guess that due to all the unforeseen circumstances, the equity team has not coalesced.
We have not officially, but I will tell you, Tucker, who's our middle school core, and Molly, who's our social science teacher, they're taking, they are going to be doing some learning about the Native American mandates and about some of the strategies for implementing that, and some engagement strategies. They're going to do some of it. So we're doing pockets of work, but as far as coming together as a formal team, no. 2 of the strongest advocates for it have taken jobs elsewhere. So, and I'm going to just say, we'll look at it after December 1, like we're going to wait till the admin team's back in full.
You had mentioned maybe taking a full day instead of trying to schedule. That might be a thing to do. I'm disappointed that things are so slow in this, and I think that I think we're gonna have, we'll do it with whoever we have. I mean, if we don't have a real robust 5 or 6 person team, we'll have a vital 3 or 4 person team. But because I don't think you can conjure up the people in your staff, that's clear. But you do have Tucker, and who else did you mention?
Molly Dooley, she's been, both of them have been coaching, so that, like, I hate to say this, Michelle, but we may end up doing the 7:30 because that might be the only time that it works, because like the people that are more likely to be involved are also the ones that are coaching and doing things, and it's really hard. Maybe a Friday might be an option. I don't know.
That was your suggestion,
That
was a Friday.
Yeah, that's an idea, and we could do more uninterrupted maybe work, because it seemed like an hour as soon as we started getting into the meat and potatoes and all the work, we were done for the night. So
Any other questions?
No, just a comment. I mean, I am kind of, in awe of Brenda. You're taking everything that comes at you and, giving everything you got to the kids in the school. And so I want to say thank you, because it's a lot, like a lot.
it is, but Jody's amazing, and she's going to be back in just a few weeks, and we will be fine. And I thank you, and I will do anything I can for these kids.
Yep.
Okay, we can move on to 4.2 superintendent/elementary principal report, which I have here in my hot little hand, and I will read. Jody wrote this last week before she went out on leave. So elementary report, elementary conferences were held on October 14th and 15th. We offered in-person or Zoom meetings to all families. The elementary staff felt it was important to meet with each family earlier in the year to help develop a positive relationship and help support student learning. The superintendent report, as of October 18th, 2021, the date set for all staff members to comply with the vaccine mandate or have a medical or religious exception approved by the district. We have 6 staff members with vaccine mandate exceptions. They are following additional safety protocols in place. 29 staff are fully vaccinated, and 1 staff member is on unpaid leave for the remainder of the school year due to non-compliance with the vaccine mandate. Brenda will update the board on any COVID-19 protocols in place. She kind of did that already. So the Division 22 standards report, which Jaren's going to go through, is due November 15th. Our district is currently non-compliant in the following areas. 581-022-2100, administration of state assessments. So the explanation of this is the school board voted to give parents the option to opt in for state assessments for the 2021 school year. Assessments were only given to students whose parents opted in. The corrective action, the district will administer state assessments to all required grade levels for the 21-22 school year. Jaren, should I continue this, or is there something you want to present first? Maybe I'm kind of doing this out of order.
Not really. I mean, I can just show it
Okay.
here. All the other, well, in compliance.
Okay.
I suppose you have something to say on the other ones.
Yep, I do. Sorry,
So,
I should have introduced that better.
that's works.
Okay, so the next.
Just a moment. I'm sorry,
Sure.
Mary Ellen. I have a text from a parent that said, "Isn't the school board meeting on, and why?" I'm going to call her back. She tried to call me, but I didn't answer. I was going to text her and say I'm at the meeting. But
Okay.
make sure she knows about the YouTube link. Is that what I need to do, Jaren? Probably. I'll do that.
Tell her that the live stream didn't work, so we'll be posting it to YouTube
I'm actually at the.
afterwards.
Why didn't the live stream work, Jaren?
It gives an error message that it's been, that code has been used before, and I'm thinking it's from, I don't know, something between Zoom and YouTube.
Well, I'll keep going. The second area of non-compliance is 581-022-2255, school and district performance report criteria. So, okay, there it is. And the explanation of this one, school and district performance data was not available due to COVID school closure at the end of the 2019-2020 school year. No school or district report card data was provided. Corrective action, school and district performance data will not be available due to COVID for the 2020-2021 school year. School and district data will be sent home for the 2021-2022 school year at the beginning of the 2022-2023 school year. And then lastly, 581-022-2320 required instructional time was non-compliant. The explanation, due to ODE, Ready Schools Safe Learners, COVID restrictions and school closures due to COVID, the district was unable to meet required instructional time for all students for the 2020-2021 school year. The corrective action, required instructional time is currently back on track to be met for the 2021-2022 school year. Any questions on the Division 22 standards report?
No, just the ones, I guess, assumption is that the out of compliance ones related to COVID are all really apply to all districts or almost all districts, I would imagine.
I would think.
Mhm.
Unless there was some way somebody was able to do something miraculous with the instructional time piece
Right.
but in pivot quicker than we did, which I thought we did great. So, okay. And then the last item on Jody's report here is we will continue to have Wednesday board work sessions on a weekly basis to update the board on any necessary COVID-19 updates. Brenda will communicate with the board regarding the weekly meetings. So back on track for next Wednesday and beyond, and we'll just keep them on our calendar unless we hear differently that there's nothing new to report. I'd say any questions on Jody's report, but I would not know how to answer them. So if there are questions, Brenda could try and field them, certainly. Hearing none. I should have asked, the next item is item 4.2.2 is a SHRAC update. Do we have a SHRAC update?
I don't think so. Jody sent one to you. They were trying to, I think they were planning on submitting one, but maybe that's not, didn't happen.
Okay. Then let's move on to 4.3, the elementary showcase.
Okay. First and second grade showcase. So Miss Johnson made this. Let me see what. So this is a newsletter that Miss Johnson sent home, Sight Words to Practice, and things for the month and homework reminders. So this is what sending home for each month. This is an October one, I'm guessing. Says they also include important upcoming events. So your important dates and ways that they can support their children at home. Uh, This is an example of a project that the first and second graders did last month. All about me. This is from a 7-year-old, the one on the left. And so they just told about themselves. Project on the left is a poem and tree that the kids made. My arm and hand have made this tree. It is a gift to you from me. So when you see my tree for fall, remember me when I was small. And on the right, so they had fire safety presentation. Siuslaw Valley Fire and Rescue came and did presentation for pre-K through 6th grade. And that's the end of that. They'll have different grade level for their showcase for the month of November.
Thank you.
Please tell for submitting that. It was fun to see work with the kids.
Yep. And from first and second grade art, we move into financial documentation. That's a big leap. Anything we need to know, Jaren, about the,
Well, I could scroll through this. So monthly enrollment. So we're down 5 from September, looks like. Sitting at 135, not including preschool. Preschool has 12 students currently enrolled. The lunch menu, I know since Judy mentioned it, Crystal, our new cook, has been working to have, I want to say, 3 out of the 4 lunches be kind of handmade. So she's been working really hard making lunches instead of having quite so much prepackaged stuff. And elementary finances, revenue and expenses comparison. We're spending a bit on special revenue stuff, grant stuff, and not much coming in yet for taxes. We'll see some more this month, next month. The reconciliation, general ledger, nothing real outstanding. 9,000, about 10,000, just under 10,000. John's construction, that was connecting our sewer line from the shop to the high school. So got that taken care of, and I know they finished up the flooring over at the elementary. But other than that, nothing too big unless there's any questions. Cascade athletics and sports stuff getting going with the start of the year and whatnot. So
being down a few staff members, I assume our budget projections are looking, I mean, good for the wrong reasons, but for the year, is that, or is there any surprises that you know of, Jaren, or is that a decent assessment?
yeah, that's yeah. So it should be, yeah, we should be all right in that department. so.
Yeah, have some leftover potentially. Any questions for Jaren about the board packet or the anything in the financial world?
From me, thanks, Jaren.
Next item is the consent agenda. Any questions on the check register or the check registers or the minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda? Mizu,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
and Mary Ellen says yes as well. Consent agenda is approved. I think we're on to discussion items, state testing. Any updates that we need to discuss there?
The update is that we are gathering more board members who feel similarly to those of us who think that the state testing is wrong, the wrong direction to go. It's, here we are in out of compliance because the district left it up to the parents to opt them in. And do you know how many, Brenda, do you know how many kids who opted in?
3.
Right. There's an indication right there that the state is out of step with the electorate. So I don't know where this takes us, but I mean, my sense is that there will be more conversations being had with ODE and the group that I'm working with is ever dedicated to finding a better way to serve kids. I'll keep you posted.
Sounds
But
good.
we as a board will be deciding what we do in Mapleton, that's for sure.
Sounds good. Any questions for Michelle? Okay. 8.1.2 equity committees. I think we kind of already hit on that, but if there's more questions. Okay. 8.1.3 is goals for the school years. So I took a stab at, kind of looked at the goals that we had developed for last year and took a stab at some edits because some of them are all about remote learning and some of them just weren't as appropriate for this year. And I'm wondering, Mizu, I actually tried to share them with you and send them to you earlier. I'm not sure if you were able to review them at all.
Yes, I have them. Yeah, I got them, received them and have reviewed them and have them up right now on my, I'm looking at them right now.
Okay. And I could probably, if Jaren, is there a way, can I share my screen? I wonder. Oh, it looks like I should be able to. Because I have them up as well. See if I'm smart enough to make this work. Okay. Let me try this again. There we go. Okay, now it should work. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so down below is the 2020-21 approved goals that we've been kind of operating under. And then I kind of did a edit, track edits version. So I can read them. You guys can have comments if you want time to, I can send them to you. And I'd sent them to Mizu just because she'd kind of volunteered to help me think through them. And I wasn't not sharing them with a bigger group, but I'll just read what I have right now and we can at least start there. In the ever-changing COVID-19 environment, the district will remain flexible and forward-thinking, creating a positive environment for learning in all forms. Number 2, support engagement, build connections, and focus on community with and between staff, students, parents, and residents. I didn't know if residents was the right word, but I was trying to get at just kind of the local people like me who aren't any of those other things. Number 3, support district staff efforts to continually improve classroom instruction and student success in all modes of learning. And then I actually eliminated number 4 because that was the one that didn't seem appropriate for this year, but I'm open to something new too if anybody's got an idea.
How about you
Thoughts on
send
them?
that to us and then like a clean version or and then we can add to it or
Okay.
study it. I mean, thanks for your efforts.
Yeah, no problem. Yep. Also, I'll send it to you and we can revisit in November. That's no problem. Okay, stop sharing. Item 9, do we have any anybody that's joined that wants to make public comment, Jaren?
No emails, no
Okay.
calls. Yeah,
Okay.
no.
Number 10, comments from the board. Any new topics, anything board wants to bring up?
I sent an email with a link to a site about climate literacy for elementary school kids. And so we can talk about that when Jody gets back, but it looks interesting. And I sent it to a couple of staff members in Mapleton to see what they thought, if they thought it was worth pursuing, and they were excited about it. I don't know if it's the kind of thing that we'll be able to pull off, but it's pinpointed to our population. And then the other thing I wanted to ask about was, it just occurred to me that we have this public radio station in Florence, and we've had some kind of relationship with them and our high school students in the past. And I'm wondering if there's anything brewing in that realm. It's a public radio station, meaning that the public can access it, and it might be a fun thing for some, some kid who's got that penchant. Do you know anything about that, Brenda? We've had kids in the past be a part of that.
We have not had anything. Are you talking like that they would be like do their own segments or what?
Whatever. I mean, it's a place to learn. It's like an internship. It's just the potential is wide open. But I know that there have been kids, and I almost want to say, Jaren, was your son involved with the radio station at some point?
No.
No. Okay.
I don't remember in recent years us being involved in the radio.
Yeah.
The last 10
Okay.
years. But I'm not saying that's not a good place.
I mean, I know we have our hands full at this point in time, but it's a resource.
Yep, something to put a pin in and keep in mind, for sure.
Or direct, direct, everybody, teachers and Brendan know all those kids and, know some of their interests and stuff. So it's cool to have those resources in mind to be able to send, to be able to nudge them towards or connect them with. So
I agree. And it could go with one of the goals that Mary Ellen was looking at in terms of community involvement and information. And we're better than on the radio to get information out. So yeah, I wrote it down. We'll keep it on the hot topics.
I had one I just want to mention as well, I attended, OSBA has started well, they're calling it a board chair cafe. It's a monthly Zoom meeting at noon where board chairs and superintendents or other board members too. I don't think it's, it's meant to be open to anyone who has interest, but can get together. It's facilitated by an OSBA member, Vincent, I think, I can't remember his last name. Anyway, he did a fabulous job of kind of introducing the idea to the participants, but then it's really sort of self-directed. It's really they're setting it up to talk so that board chairs can bring up topics and sort of get bounce ideas and share best practices or things that have worked or frustrations or that kind of thing. And I found it really interesting. There was 3 topics that were brought up over the hour-long period. The October 18th vaccination mandate was a big one. And as Brenda said earlier, there are a lot of districts who are facing teacher shortages and substitute shortages. And so that was, I don't know if it's good to hear. That's not what I mean, but it is nice to just learn about what's going on in the state and know that we're not alone in some of the struggles that we're going through. So that was one topic. Traveling to sporting events was another, or traveling to out of district, both in the COVID world and in just the current climate that we're in, political climate, diversity issues, climates, that kind of thing was discussed. And that was interesting too. And to hear some of the challenges that certain districts are facing. So, and then there was a third topic that I have written down at my desk, but then when I moved in here, I left that piece of paper behind. So I can't remember the third topic right now, but just an FYI, I found it really useful, and would, if anybody else is interested in joining, I'd be happy to send you the registration, because it was a good group of people.
Could it have possibly been standardized testing? Was that maybe the topic? And if
think
it was
so.
not, would you send me the link and maybe I will attend? How's that sound?
Absolutely. Yes,
Thanks.
absolutely. Then any other comments from the board? Then I would like to move into executive session per ORS 1926602F and ORS 1926602I. Okay, we're going to circle back and before we go into executive session, let Brenda.
Well, there were 2 policies that I wanted to have looked at changing. One is the honors program. I think I've gone through it multiple times. I think you guys are great with it. It's the 4 years of English, math, science, language arts, and then in addition, passing all sorts of things. And amazing, it's going very well. The second came to me this year, and it came from our new teacher from Siuslaw as an idea. And it's to go ahead and reinstate the Ds. So we have a policy about grading, and then we have an AR. And in the AR, it's actually policy, which is kind of funny that it's policy, but it is from 20 plus years ago. And I was on this school staff when we advocated for getting rid of the Ds. And at the time, I thought it was a great idea. I think reinstating it is also a great idea, and here's why. In the time just in the time that we're in, learning is harder than ever. So giving grace. The other thing is when students from other schools, for athletics, for other eligibility, it's to keep that competitive and to keep kind of the fairness between schools. And I feel like right now it would be giving grace. One teacher, for example, and I know this is a lot, but gave 44 Fs for first quarter, 9 of which would easily be converted to Ds if we just did the D. And I think that that's reasonable because they're in that range. That does not mean we won't keep, reaching to strive for that 70% or proficiency mark, but just having some grace and understanding and allowing that to be. So I would request that this is like first draft of and basically what we'd be doing is I'm requesting that we remove the AR, what was the IFK, what was the policy? Anyway, it doesn't matter. The policy, it was the AR that goes with grading. The AR, the bulk of it is about that percentages, and I'd like to remove that.
So are you calling this a first reading? Because we're not seeing the policy anywhere or the AR.
It's, this part is the first reading, but it's the removal of the AR, which is not required. So
Oh.
I'm asking to remove the AR that states less than, between 60 and 69 would be allowed to be a D. We're going to keep, I would like to reinstate that, which means getting rid of the policy and it just doesn't say, and we do the grading, however the leader of the building wants.
So we get a month to decide this, correct? Or do you want us to do this right now? Because I'm not prepared to.
No, I'm not prepared to either. I want to look at it too.
So this is it came up last week. I will tell you we because of losing staff, we ended quarter at 6 weeks because it didn't seem genuine to make them continue and then have different classes. Kids are able to backfill, but I don't know what the laws are in terms of like retro, but I would like us to consider it for this year. In fact, this quarter. So I don't know what that means in terms of, help me out, those who have more experience on the board than.
You're gonna,
You can go back and adjust those. I think you're definitely right. It would be something, either you keep it inside of the true quarter, which I think we'd be outside of that in November, but if you figured out inside of this semester, if you needed to retro, go back and change those. There is also another option I could check, and I think it just means it doesn't show on their GPA. Well, it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't plus or minus it in that way, but you can give a P as a pass for anything a D and below.
But our policy does, that would have to be in our policy, because right now we say 70% and below is a no pass. That's what the policy
is. You would then have to change it again to honor a P instead of a D. But I know you can retro go back and change those. If you change your percent, if you're changing the percentages, you could go back and move those to Ds instead of Fs.
I mean, I think there's a philosophical conversation to be had here in terms of, is this a hardship case because of COVID and we've been understaffed and all of these things, or is this how we proceed into the future? So, I have to think about those things. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, so good question. So it's kind of funny when it's great to have fresh eyes. So our teacher from SciSci goes, "What's up with the Ds?" And I looked at it, and the quick history of it is 21 years ago, the board was presented with the idea that there were a large number of kids, and many more athletes that were just satisfied with that D range. And the thought was, and it ended up to be true, that if we eliminated the D, that group of kids would strive for the C, and they did. That following year, Kyle Tucker was our principal. We looked at the data. I remember looking in, and it was exclusive. Every athlete that had been hovering in that D range figured out how to get to those C. We don't have that population now. It's a different population. We have kids that are struggling and working hard to get to that D. And I think in all fairness, that's the state requirement is the 60%. That seems to be the neighboring districts. And I think for that population now, I think that's a very reasonable ask. We still have those kids that are competing for those A's. And obviously we have students that are choosing to not participate or engage in learning at the same level that we would like to get to a C or above. So,
and I think you're right there. Like, the population's different. I mean, obviously a lot of sports, we struggle for athletes to go out and be committed, let alone the fact of their grades or eligibility. And I think this year especially, I've heard it from other schools, other high schools. And it's, I mean, especially like 9th and 10th graders, but it's not just them, where they've lost that year or so of academic growth, understanding how to be a student, being in the classroom, that discipline. They've lost that and that maturity level of it. 9th and 10th graders, especially, where they kind of lost the end of their middle school and entry to high school. And not to say that older ones aren't affected too, but it changed and now it's back to hard regular work and it's been tough for them. So
there are kids like that. The perfect example was if I have a student who's at a 48%, asking them to a 70 is a 22% jump. They give up. They do. I mean, our kids, some of them, not all of them, but some of our kids are just not as engaged and not as motivated. But if it was a 60%, that margin's narrow enough to where we think we would be able to get them in. Now, that doesn't mean we don't want them to get to a C or a B or an A. It just means we want them to feel like they can achieve. And do I think this is like in the short term or the long term? Yes and yes. I think in the short term, I know it would be awesome. Maybe we could do it for a year and then revisit it. But I'm looking at our population and I really think it's long term, that the kids that are hovering at that window of 50% to 65, that it's gonna be hard to convince them a 70 is achievable. So those are my two things. Sorry about that, Jaron. I didn't know they were part of my regular. I thought they were going to be addressed later. But are there any other questions? Because I know you guys need to get to executive. And
Yeah, I have a question. So is it really, Brenda, just about giving the student something to strive for that they can achieve? Is it does it change anything, a D versus an F, as far as being able to graduate, or a state, any sort of state assessment? I'm not really even sure what question to ask, but
so state assessments aren't related, but so kids need 24 credits to graduate from high school at Mapleton.
okay.
If they get it, if they are in the D range, they don't get they get a 0, they get it, it's just the same as an F. And so they don't get it towards their marking towards their 24 credits. I'm requesting that we look at removing the AR around that policy, allow them to have a D, allow that to be transcripted, allow that to count towards the graduation.
Okay.
I don't know of any schools around that eliminated the D. And again, 20 years ago, I was a proponent. I think it was effective. In fact, it was so effective that I didn't even think about it until new eyes came in and said, Brenda, are you sure that this is fair to kids? Is it fair really to have such a higher standard than what other schools have in Oregon?
Has there been students in recent years that didn't graduate because of this, that would have if the Ds were allowed, or Ds were a thing?
I am, yes, I'm confident there are. I don't have, don't have case studies.
Okay.
But I will tell you with 100% certainty, this would allow more grace and more kids to graduate this year in the next few years. Yeah, there are kids that, and not only are they more likely to graduate. To me, even with with students that drop out of school, even with that population, every day we have them in school is a day that they're safe, they're fed, and there's learning. And so the longer we can keep kids towards that graduation, the better off our community is, everybody. And I think that offering a D is going to allow kids more access to a diploma.
Any other questions for Brenda? Okay, thank you for bringing that up.
And you're good if I go then, Mary Ellen? I think executive session's about ready to start.
Yep, I think we're good. Yep, thank you for being here.
Thank you,
I
guys.
appreciate it.
Yeah, have a
Hang
great.
in there.
I will. Bye.
So now we will move back into executive session, and if we could stop the recording, please.
Sounds great.
Okay, we are back we are out of executive session. If there are no other comments or questions, well, I'd accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right. Going to adjourn this meeting at 7:37 of the Mapleton School Board. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate your time, and we will see you on Wednesday, November 17th, I believe, 6 p.m. I'm actually out of town that night, so as we get closer to that, I may be tapping my vice chair for some assistance.
All right. You know,
Um,
there's this thing called the internet, and wherever you are, we can find you.
You can. I will be 3 hours later, which is usually the time I'm going to bed, but like we'll discuss that when we get.
Buck
closer.
up, Mary Ellen.
We're gonna switch the meeting time to morning that month.
Buck up, Michelle.
If you didn't say it, I'd say it. I'm kidding. Oh,
All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you all, and we will
Thanks,
see you.
everybody.
Yep.
good night.
Night.